We're back again, and yes, we are still on the topic of rankings, as I have been doing for about a week now, but this time we're shifting our focus into a different category. For today's video, we'll be taking a look at some of the best shooters the NBA has to offer and ranking them. But before I say anything else, I wanted to make one thing very clear. Because of the fact that these three players either did not play at all or barely played this season, I did not include them in the list, and the three players I'm talking about are Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Kevin Durant. Obviously, those are three of the best shooters in the game, but for this video, I wanted to shine some light on the players that deserve it from the 2020 NBA season. Before we start though, it turns out about 79% of you watching right now aren't even subscribed to the channel, so please, if you enjoy the content, consider hitting the subscribe button, because not only does it greatly help, but I would also very much appreciate it. Now with that being said, let's begin. Before we get into the top 10, I wanted to start by discussing some honorable mentions that just missed the cut, and the players in this category are George Hill, Danilo Gallinari, James Harden, and Trae Young. George Hill actually led the league in three-point percentage this season at 46%, so you might be wondering why he's only an honorable mention, but for me, I take many different factors into judging someone as a shooter, and the fact of the matter is that he attempted significantly fewer three-point shots this year than almost any other player we'll be discussing, so even though he converts them at a high rate, the difficulty for him to do so isn't nearly as high as others. Gallinari makes the cut because he's simply one of the most reliable perimeter shooters year in and year out. Then with Harden and Trae Young, they may not have the impressive percentages from three they shot for, hovering around league average at 36%, but they both attempt a ton of threes every game. The difficulty of the shots they take are objectively much higher than others because of the fact that they create most of their looks for themselves, and those kinds of factors have to be counted for this kind of topic. Now, to start things off at the bottom of the top 10 and work our way up to that number 1 spot, we have Bojan Bogdanovic of the Utah Jazz. Bogdanovic was a huge addition to the Jazz last offseason, and he came in and did exactly what they signed him to do perfectly, which was take some of the offensive burden off of Donovan Mitchell, and most importantly, shoot the ball at a high level. Bojan was a 20-point scorer who attempted 7 threes per game and made about 41% of those attempts, which is very high-level stuff. And because of that, he absolutely deserves a nod on this list. Unfortunately, an injury kept him out of the playoffs, and his presence was very much missed by the team because after going up 3-1 on the Nuggets in the first round, they were unable to close them out, and if they had Bojan, he definitely would have helped them advance. Next up at number 9, we have Khris Middleton of the Milwaukee Bucks. Middleton had a career year all around this season, but especially when it comes to shooting the basketball, and as a result, he got named an All-Star and contributed in a big way to the Bucks finishing with the best record in the NBA. He's a 21-point scorer who made about 42% of his threes this year. He was able to handle the ball and create offense when the team needed him to, and his ability to space the floor definitely helped MVP Giannis Antetokounmpo operate inside and dominate. He did admittedly struggle a bit in the playoffs when it comes to maintaining that level of efficiency, but regardless, he still earned this spot on the list. Up next at number 8, we have Buddy Hield of the Sacramento Kings. Hield has been one of the best shooters in the NBA since he entered the league, and almost any other year he would actually be ranked higher than this, but he had a weird season that saw his production drop a little bit this year. He did actually attempt the second most threes in the entire league this year, behind only James Harden, and he made 39% of his shots from 3, which is still an impressive number, but we've become used to him making about 43% of his threes over the last few seasons, so it is a noticeable dip. He doesn't seem to be happy in Sacramento anymore, and after getting benched this year, he might request a trade. So if he finds a new home that he's happy with, we might see him return to form next year. Next up at number 7, we have Davis Bertans of the Washington Wizards. Bertans has gotten better and better every year he's been in the NBA, and this year in particular, he established himself as a sharpshooter from deep. After coming over from the Spurs this season, he worked his way into a bigger role than he ever previously had, and used it to jack up threes like there's no tomorrow. He attempted almost 9 threes per game, and he made over 43% of those attempts, which is highly impressive no matter how you look at it. He's got distance out way beyond the line, he uses his size to easily shoot over defenders, and he can catch fire in a moment's notice. He's going to be the Wizards' top priority this offseason because he hits free agency this summer, but he will also draw attention from a ton of teams and won't be wanted by them because of his shooting ability. Up next at number 6, we have Joe Harris of the Brooklyn Nets. Harris wasn't much of a factor early in his career, but in Brooklyn, he's found a home that utilizes his strengths to the fullest, and as a result, he's rewarded them with some of the most consistent three-point shooting in the NBA. Last year, he led the league in three-point percentage, and this year, he ranked 6th while taking over 400 attempts. His movement off the ball is top-notch, he's a deadly catch-and-shoot player, and with him spotting up, it makes the lives of playmakers so much easier, so for that, he's definitely one of the best in the league. Next up at number 5, we have actually a teammate of Joe Harris, being Kyrie Irving of the Brooklyn Nets. I mentioned that Harris's presence makes life easier for the playmakers, and Kyrie is definitely a beneficiary of that for his all-around ability to score. But one thing that I don't think enough people realize is that Kyrie's been one of the best perimeter shooters in the league when it comes to the top-tier scorers. Kyrie's one of the most creative scorers in the league right now, and a lot of his points come from shots that he creates for himself. So for him to consistently be someone that makes about 40% of his threes within this role is unheard of, and it's deserving of more respect. He was once again hovering around the 40% mark this year on 7 attempts per game, and next year, with a fully healthy Nets roster, they'll be sure to make some noise. Up next at number 4, we have JJ Redick of the New Orleans Pelicans. Redick's getting up there in age now, but his shooting ability is still better than it's ever been. He's been one of the premier sharpshooters in the league for a decade now, and he's still going strong, making 45% of his shots from 3 this season. For any shooter looking for ways to improve without the ball in their hands, they should study Redick's game, because he doesn't stop moving, always looking for an opening to get his shot off. Even as he continues to advance into old age, he's going to stick around for a while, because his ability to shoot the basketball will not be going anywhere anytime soon. Next up at number 3, we have Seth Gurry of the Dallas Mavericks. Seth, for obvious reasons, has been overshadowed by his brother throughout the years, but it's about time he starts to get the respect that he deserves, and it begins with him making the top 3 of this list. Seth has been, and I promise I'm not exaggerating when I say this, one of the very best shooters the league has ever seen since he's begun his career, and the numbers back that statement up. In terms of history of the NBA, only one player ever has a higher career three-point percentage than Seth, and no, it's not his brother Steph, it's actually Steve Kerr. Year in and year out, Seth is a highly reliable perimeter shooter, and he has helped the Mavs in a big way on the offensive end. Next up at number 2, we have a new face climbing the ranks fast this season, being Duncan Robinson of the Miami Heat. Robinson went undrafted a few years ago and only started getting real minutes in the NBA this year, but in his role, he proved to be absolutely lights out and played a massive role in the success of this Heat team that surprised everybody with a finals run. Robinson had the 4th highest three-point percentage in the league this year, but what makes that even more special is the fact that he was one of only 4 players to also shoot over 600 threes this season. He was out there strictly to bomb threes, and he did a hell of a job doing so. And finally, the number 1 spot on this list goes to Damian Lillard of the Portland Trail Blazers, who is another untraditional shooter because of how good of a scorer he is overall, but this year, his shooting in particular got elevated to the elite tier. Lillard is comfortable and confident in pulling up literally anywhere inside of half court, and at this point it's not even a surprise when those shots go in. With the game on the line, he'll create a good look out of nothing, which has to be taken into account as well. On top of all of that, he attempted a monstrous 10 threes per game this season and made over 40% of them, which quite frankly is just absurd efficiency, and when you consider the difficulty of a lot of his attempts, it makes this number 1 ranking even more legitimate for the time being. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below how you would rank these players. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.